All right, everyone. Good afternoon. It is 12 p.m. Central Time, and it is Wednesday. So y'all know what that means. It's time for community chats. My name is Anthony Saracusa, Director of Community Engagement at the University of Mississippi, and we are delighted to be here with you on Wednesday, June 24th. I am joined, as I always am, by my distinguished colleagues, Jody Holland from Loft and Aaron Peiser Oath from the Office of Community Engagement. And as y'all know, these Wednesday and Friday conversations are an opportunity for us to allow people in the Lafayette Oxford University community to tell their own story in their own words about how they're making a positive difference in our region. Would you like to be interviewed on the show, or do you know somebody who we should interview? Please let us know. You can send us a direct message on Facebook or an email at engaged@oldmiss.edu. I always like to name that this is a partnership with our colleagues at the Lafayette Oxford Foundation for Tomorrow. Y'all be on the lookout. Loft will be doing their Night for Nonprofits in a little bit of a different fashion, in a really cool and innovative way this year. So be on the lookout for Loft's Night for Nonprofits coming to you soon. Today, we have Michael Gerberi of Habitat for Humanity here in Oxford Lafayette on the call with us. And we are just so delighted, Michael, to have you here. Thanks for joining.
You're very welcome.
Well, let's jump right into it. Can you get us started, Mike, by just telling us where did you grow up and how did you end up in the Oxford Lafayette community?
I grew up in Chicago, and I got my education there, and I finished medical school in 1972 and went into the United States Navy. At that time, the Vietnam War was still in progress, and military commitment was required. In any case, I spent 7 years in the Navy in San Diego and in Orlando, and then I got my discharge, and I started my practice in Florida and subsequently moved to Illinois, where I worked for about 37 years. And then I retired in 2015. My wife is a native Mississippian and a businesswoman, and her children are scattered between Arkansas and Alabama and Mississippi. So we were located sort of centrally between them, which is how we wound up here.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Mike, this is Jody, and we want to hear a lot about this story and how you really developed your life here in Oxford. But how did you get this current position at the organization that you're in right now?
Well, once we relocated, I looked for opportunities for volunteerism, and my first opportunity came with hospice. I had already belonged to hospice in Illinois, and so I spent about a year and a half with hospice, and then they merged and reorganized. And I became a volunteer at the Baptist Hospital. I still work as a volunteer there at the Cancer Treatment Center. And I joined the Knights of Columbus at St. John's Church, Catholic Church. And through my acquaintanceship with gentlemen there, they enticed me to consider joining Habitat. And I did. And it's a small group, mostly all retirees, with the exception of a few university staff. And within a year of my membership with Habitat, I was asked to consider an executive position and ultimately became president of the local county affiliate, which I've been for the last 3 years now.
Excellent.
Wow. Well, Mike, many people maybe have heard of Habitat, national, international organization. But can you just, for those that maybe aren't as familiar or have heard the name but not really know what Habitat does, can you just tell us a little bit about Habitat, about your mission, and about what you do here in Lafayette Oxford University?
Sure. Habitat was established, I think, somewhere approximate to Jimmy Carter's presidency, in that neighborhood time-wise. And he sort of put them on the map here in the U.S., but they were already busy helping poor and indigent people in the South. And as they grew and developed, they became an international organization, and they're dedicated to assisting in all sorts of manners abroad, in the Caribbean and Africa and other locations. And consequently, they've sort of left the local U.S. affiliates on their own to do their own thing. And we do communicate with them, but we're sort of a standalone entity at this time.
Yeah, that's great.
There was once, I believe, somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 Mississippi affiliates, and we're now down to 11, the last count I know. So a lot of the local affiliates have sort of dwindled.
Gotcha. Well, Mike, can you talk a little bit about, the team that it takes to do Habitat? I mean, obviously you've got these builds going on, and then you've got administrative work. Talk about your volunteers, talk about your staff, the kind of group effort it takes to pull this off.
Well, over the course of time, since the mid-1980s, the organization here has built 15 homes. And of those 15, 13 are still financing their mortgages. And as the mortgage payments come in, we have access to those funds. And when we collect enough money, we can then initiate construction of a new home. And currently, construction costs being what they are, a new home for a family of four, a two-bedroom house runs around $60,000. The big issue is land availability. There's virtually no affordable property any longer in this county. So we struggle to find the locations for housing opportunities for construction of new homes. So we reverted to primarily doing home restorations, of which there's a huge need in this area. We have a staff of about 12 board members, and we have an executive board which consists of a secretary, a treasurer, a president, and a construction manager. And it's all volunteerism. We have two ladies who are on one is the treasurer, and she's a former accountant, and the other is our secretary, who's a former librarian at the university. And our construction manager is a gentleman who was a career Navy officer and subsequently worked in the Pentagon, and he currently tutors at the university. And the other members, some of whom are involved with construction of ramps for disabled individuals who are wheelchair bound. And we have a gentleman who is also a university retiree who was in the marketing field. So we're a tight-knit group. We have, I think I said 12 people who consist of our group. Now, in order to build anything or restore anything, we're really dependent on volunteerism. And the bulk of our volunteers are gentlemen who offer their time and talent from the Knights of Columbus. And also, when the students are in town, we solicit their aid in the construction sites when they're available. And they actually seem to enjoy helping out. There are some itinerant groups that belong to Habitat, and they traverse all over the country, and they will sort of let us know when they're in our area and whether we need their assistance. So they'll usually pop in and stay for a week if the timing is right. If we're not building anything, then we're not much help to them, or vice versa.
That's great. Thank you, Mike.
Hi, this is Jody again. I'm curious about, you talked about you do your builds and you have some restorations. Can you tell us if there are additional programs that you do under Habitat, or specifically how those processes work and you get them off the ground?
Well, we have a website, and we have a location on Facebook, and word of mouth amongst those who have needs leads them to contact us to petition for consideration for either a new home or restoration of an existing property. Now, the majority of the people that are in the existing property are elderly, they're on limited income, and their homes are in a sorry state of repair. And it's mind-boggling and eye-opening to see the conditions that they live in, and it's rather pitiful, actually. So we've taken to sort of renovating and restoring the condition of their home so it's habitable. And a lot of these people, although they're mostly grandparents, house other family members, predominantly children, teenagers. And a lot of these kids are itinerant. They move from one household to another because there isn't always room or food available for them at one location. This is throughout the county. I mean, I'm no longer taken by surprise. I once was when I first got involved, but no longer. It's just, you have to see it to believe it, to see the conditions that some of these people live in.
Thanks for sharing.
I mean, some of them don't have, basic, hygiene capabilities, warm running water, roofs over their heads, floors they can walk on without collapsing, and on and on and on. It's really sad.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for the work that you do to improve those conditions and to help people get into affordable housing. What are some of the greatest challenges that you experience as a nonprofit working in this community, either in this current moment, COVID-19, or in just day-to-day normal times?
Well, the foremost challenge is the search for available land upon which a home can be built. It's very sparse, and we've made efforts to talk to a great number of church religious communities, because some of them own property, and see if they have any willingness to separate from it. But it's hard to do that. It's very complicated, and we have had limited success in that manner. The other
Mike,
challenge is
go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, in addition, it's trying to obtain donations, funding for projects.
I think a lot of nonprofits can probably relate to that challenge, and one that's shared pretty widely. Mike, you've been doing this important work in really challenging conditions, for years, and you've clearly kind of led a life of service to the community. What are some of the greatest rewards that you've experienced as a result of this work?
Well, far and away, it's restoring these old folks' living conditions so that they can live with some degree of dignity and in a proper manner and safely. So that's the biggest reward is meeting the challenges that they face and putting them sort of in a reasonable position to carry on. And I can only say that it's very astonishing to see what they have to put up with the lack of money, but they don't have to replace or restore their whole households.
Thank you.
Well, Mike, I can only imagine the amount of gratitude you received and observed during this process. Yeah, as our viewers are listening, how can folks in the community, or even individuals on campus or students, how can they contribute to the work that you're doing in our community?
Well, one thing I'd like to emphasize is that these people were aiding our neighbors, and they're here in our community. And I would like to emphasize that the people who live here in Oxford Lafayette don't need to look outside of the county, the state, or the country to provide donations to solicitors for aid of the poor, because they're here amongst us. And the way I see it, we should help our neighbors as much, if not more, than the rest of the human existence in the world. So the International Habitat devotes a huge amount of their efforts towards international assistance and very little towards the local assistance. We don't get any funding from the national habitat, and not only that, but they tithe the local affiliates, and they expect us to contribute to their cause, and that's an additional hardship we face.
Well, Mike, we call this our 1 minute moment. So you have 1 minute to communicate whatever message you want to the LOU community. What do you most want to share with them in this moment?
I would like when the students take up a cause to consider us and to help us raise funds, and to contact us through our website and let us know what their needs are in terms of relating to us and how we can help them help us and help our neighbors here in Oxford.
Mike, thank you so much for that. And for those of you who are students listening, Mike has issued the call to support Habitat in Lafayette, Oxford. And I can tell you, I've done Habitat work across the country. I've done it in New Orleans. I've done it in Santa Fe. I've done it in Colorado. What a great organization. And in particular, the ways in which the local organization is supporting folks on a fixed income, seniors. Mike, you've really illuminated that picture for us. So I hope for all of our viewers who are listening today, think about if you're going to adopt a cause, as Mike said, maybe that's Habitat. And if you want to get involved, you want to help to generate some money, the needs in our county are real. And thank you, Mike, for all the work that you're doing to address those with your team. And thanks for being on the show today.
Oh, well, you're very welcome. I appreciate the opportunity.
And for those of you who tuned in today, thank you for being here, for being present. And just a reminder that on this Friday, June 26th, we're going to have Forrest Jenkins from LOU Home. So our week on housing will continue. Mike gestured to a number of items, particularly the limited availability of affordable land in Lafayette County. And I'm sure that Forrest will talk with us a little bit more about that on Friday. So if this is an issue you care about, be sure to tune in. Or you can watch it after the fact on our Facebook page. You can also catch us on Spotify as well as YouTube. We've got new places where you can hear community chats and watch. And additionally, all of these past videos and the ones going forward will have closed captioning. So if you prefer that, or for accessibility reasons, if that's important to you, that is coming along. In the meantime, y'all, stay tuned, stay engaged. Please like and comment on this video, share it with your friends, and stay safe. We'll see you next time on Community Chats.